Hi again, we're going to start the second part of survey design lecture. I know some of the concepts seem to be really abstract, but I will have some activities to help you understand. We stop at clear directions in questionnaire design, and we start to talk about what's skip pattern. Let me just show you with a simple figure to show what does that mean. So let's say you have a question asking your participant, are you a graduating senior? And people say yes and no. And maybe you want to ask graduating senior different set of questions compared to people who are not graduating senior. So you can have a skip pattern design here. The next one will be if no, skip to question 3. If yes, answer question 2. So it looks like this figure. You answer question 1. If you have the answer A, you skip to question 3. If your answer is B, you go to question 2. Eventually you'll get to question 3. The skip pattern will help you to ask questions that in a clear direction, because if you want to ask people who are graduating soon about their plan, do they have a job offer, or do they plan to go to graduate school, things like that, it may not make sense to ask someone who is not graduating anytime soon. So those people can skip the question. Skip pattern is very handy when you have survey software. They will do that automatically. You don't even have to tell people if no, skip question 3. If you program the skip pattern into the survey program, it will just automatically skip if the answer for the first question is no. And only ask necessary questions like we talked about before. Avoid embarrassing questions or sensitive questions. And also don't ask unnecessary boring questions either, because when your survey is too long, more people will quit in the middle of it. You want as many people to finish your survey as possible. So only ask necessary questions will help you to keep the length of the survey to a reasonable amount. It's also important you only use a limited number of question styles, because once people start to read the questions, if the style is similar, they will read faster. If you keep changing the question styles, they will get annoying eventually. If you have done survey before, you probably have seen this. I will show you a few examples in this module so you will know what I mean. And group questions using a similar style together will really help people to navigate through your survey. You want to have simple, easy questions as warm-up activities in the beginning. Their age, their gender, depends on your research topic, something basic. You always want to know people's education level and the basic demographic information. Sensitive questions should be the last. And remember, the order actually matters a lot in questionnaire design. You want to know will the questions you are asking will influence questions that are following the one immediately. Let me give you an example here. So on the National Election Survey, if you ask, should Republican leaders work with Obama, and then ask, should Democrat leaders work with Republican leaders, or stand up with Republican leaders, or don't know, you will see that more people, for the first question, 66% of people think Republican leaders should work with Obama. And the second answer, 71% of people think Democrat leaders should work with Republican leaders as well. So it's kind of like a mutual respective relationship. But if you ask, should Democrat leaders work with Republican leaders first, and then you ask, should Republican leaders work with Obama, both questions, the amount of people agree with this mutual respective relationship increased. This is a really interesting example of ordering effect. You may not have this in your survey. It really depends on the type of questions you're asking, but I just want to show you, just because the order changed, the answer can change as well. Here, be clear. Now we're going to talk about all the types of surveys out there. There's survey on the piece of paper. People have to answer with a pen. There's telephone survey. You can just call someone and ask them the questions. You can go out there, do a survey face-to-face, go to the mall, stop people, when they're shopping and ask them questions about the product and the service, or just send them the link so they can answer all the questions with laptop, with their phone, with their iPad. Of course, each method has advantages and disadvantages. Mail survey, if you send them by mail, the advantage is low cost because it doesn't really cost a lot of money to send people a piece of mail. And you can have longer survey. And you don't have interviewer influence. If you are talking to someone face to face, then the interviewer, him or herself, will affect people's response. Depends on the type of questions you're asking. But if you just send your participants a piece of mail, there is no interviewer influence at all. And you can have visual content. You can show them pictures like within your survey, just print them out. Of course, there are disadvantages as well. Your questions must be self-explanatory because there won't be anyone to explain or clarify questions. In the mail surveys, you really have a really low response rate, usually 1 to 5%. And the collection takes lots of time because people don't always check their mail every day or respond every day. And of course, there are things you can do to increase your response rate. You can send people a mail, like a notification saying, I will mail you a survey a few days later. And after you mail them the survey, send a follow-up mail saying that we really look forward to your answers. Then you will have a higher response rate. Put a university logo on there usually helps. If you're sending mail to alumni, they feel like there's a connection between the survey because of the institution logo. And you can also add some personal touches there, use real stamps, and maybe even use real signatures. People will be less likely to say no when they feel like it's a letter that addressed to them directly. If everything is printed, they will feel less attached to the piece of mail and they may just ignore it. And you can always offer some sort of compensation. This applies to all surveys, not just mail survey. Offering compensation will be one of the most effective way to increase response rate, but of course it's also very expensive to do. Telephone survey is a very quick data collection method. The cost is moderate. It is increasing now because people don't necessarily have a landline in their house anymore. It's a little bit more expensive to call people on their cell phone because you have to get the list of numbers. It's more complicated. And when you're calling people on the phone, you have the ability to clarify questions. You have a slightly higher response rate. We call it a moderate response rate. And the response rate is decreasing because there are so many spam calls now. People don't necessarily pick up the phone call if they don't recognize the number. And there will be some interviewer influence. Whoever is on the phone with the participant may affect the participant's mood or their likelihood to answer all the questions. And your questionnaire really cannot be long at all. It has to be short because people don't like to stay on the phone forever. They may be busy. They may be distracted in the middle of it. And you can't really use any image or even show them a video in the middle of the survey. And you can only reach people who have cell phones or have a landline. And cell phone itself will create more problems because the numbers are not listed or they may not be at some place the service is really well. Even if you call them, they can't hear you, you can't hear them, bad connections, all kinds of problems arise with telephone survey. And there are even some push polls now. It's very controversial tactics that people use. They will pretend to be a phone survey, but the real goal is to change your mind or make you think certain topics in a certain way. And the statements they give you can be just false or like bend the truth somehow. If you have seen ad like this, it's really misleading. It assumes people believe that Obama has met with anti-American foreign leaders unconditionally, which is a big assumption to make. But the wording of the question is really clear that it's not scientific research at all. It's really just a push-pull. Face-to-face surveys, you have the chance to clarify if participants are confused about your questions. And you can have audio visual content. Just bring a laptop or iPad or your phone with you. You can show them any content you want them to see before they answer the questions. It's very effective if you want to do research for like advertising. You just want to test whether your message would work on your audience. Just show them your advertisement and ask them how likely they will buy the product afterwards. And have really high response rate, because face-to-face is a situation where it's harder for people to say no. And you can have longer survey as well, because people will be more patient when you're standing in front of them. The biggest disadvantage will be interviewer influence, because you're interacting with someone face-to-face. Not just your voice can affect them. Your, to be honest, your look. Are you handsome? Are you ugly? Are you clean? Are you well-dressed? Do you look like a cold authority, or do you look like a friendly neighbor? All those can affect how your respondent answer the questions on your survey. And it's very expensive to do face-to-face surveys and take lots of time. Online survey, that's my favorite. The biggest advantage is the money. It's very cheap, but you also get a bad sample. It's very hard to get random sample, if possible, online, because not everyone is online. And it's fast. Once you send people the link, usually they can respond really quick. And there are a few websites, they will actually help you to find the participants. You don't even need to send the link out yourself. You just use their service. You can collect hundreds of participants' responses within hours. There's no interviewer influence because everyone look at the same web page when they answer the questions. And the range of response rate vary. If you use a professional survey firm, they can get you higher response rate. If you just send out a link via email to people you know, you may get a lower response rate. And you can also embed audio or visual content within your survey. Again, the sample is the biggest problem with online survey. It's very hard to get a representative sample. And people sometimes worry that whatever they put into their browser, there will be a record. And the questions must be self-explanatory as well, because you don't have interviewers there to explain what the questions meant. And you may get a question or responses, because some of those online surveys that claim they will find you participants that are real people, but there are many software will automatically fill out the survey just so people can collect money, collect the incentives you offer. So it's a gray area, but if you use a reputable firm online, you can get pretty good response with online survey. It's used more and more by social scientists nowadays. It really doesn't matter which type of survey you are doing. You always have to select a sample, construct the questionnaire, collect data, analyze the data, calculate the response rate. And there are some unique steps. When you're doing mail, you need to write a cover letter, and you need to create a physical package. You need to physically distribute the survey and monitor rates, and maybe even do follow-ups. For telephone and face-to-face survey, you really need to train the interviewer. It's the same thing when we talk about how to do interview effectively. You need to train the interviewer, prepare the interviewer with all the instructions, and make callbacks or return to the house if no one opened the door or someone refused to answer the survey at a certain time, ask you to call back later, because like I said, people may be busy with their life. They don't have the time to answer your phone call all the time. And you also need to verify the data. If you have some data points that you think is questionable or you don't understand the answer they gave you, you can always call back. With online survey, there are less things to do. You need to program the survey and maybe do follow-up. It depends on the type of research you are really doing. That's all I have for survey design. I know it's a lot of information at once, but I hope with activities and example within this module, you will become a survey expert and enjoy writing your own survey questions. It's a really powerful tool. I hope everyone knows how to use it effectively, of course. And thank you for your time. I will see you next week.